The Boston winter morning was particularly bitter as I parked my modest Honda Civic outside my parents' sprawling Victorian mansion. The contrast between my practical car and their ostentatious display of wealth always amused me. Sarah Bennett, their failure of a daughter, arriving for another lecture about life choices. I checked my phone one last time before heading in. 3 missed calls from Marcus, my COO, about our latest acquisition. "I'll handle it after this family circus," I texted him. Taking a deep breath, I walked up the familiar stone path, my boots crunching in the fresh snow. The door opened before I could ring the bell. "You're late, my mother, Eleanor Bennett," said with her trademark disapproving frown. Her perfectly coiffed silver hair and designer outfit screamed old money, just like everything else about her. "Good morning to you too, Mom." I tried to keep my voice light as I stepped inside. The house smelled of fresh coffee and cinnamon, our housekeeper Maria's signature breakfast scent. Some things never changed. In the formal living room, my father, Robert Bennett, sat in his leather armchair like a king on his throne. My younger sister Victoria perched on the sofa, looking smugly perfect in her corporate attire. She'd followed the proper path, Harvard Business School, then straight into the family's luxury hotel chain, Bennett Hospitality Group. "Sit down, Sarah," my father commanded, not bothering with a greeting. "We need to discuss your future." I settled into an armchair, already knowing what was coming. At 32, I was the black sheep who'd rejected the family business to pursue my own path. My crime? Starting a tech company instead of joining their precious hotel empire. "Your sister is being promoted to executive vice president," my father announced, beaming at Victoria. "Meanwhile, you're still playing with your little internet startup." Victoria's smile widened. "Don't worry, Sarah. There's still an entry-level position available if you want to learn the business properly." I bit back a laugh. If they only knew that my little internet startup had just closed its 4th round of funding. But I kept my success quiet, operating under a holding company name that couldn't be traced to me. I wanted to succeed or fail on my own merits, not the Bennett name. "Actually, I'm quite happy with my company," I said calmly. My mother sighed dramatically. "Darling, it's time to be realistic. You're not getting any younger. The family business needs you." "No, Mom. The family business needs another obedient soldier who won't question Dad's outdated methods." My father's face reddened. "Outdated? I've built this empire from the ground up. 20 luxury hotels across 3 continents. What have you achieved with your little tech experiments?" I remained silent, thinking about the real reason for this meeting. Last week, Bennett Hospitality Group had tried to acquire a small but innovative hotel management software company, only to be outbid by an anonymous buyer. That buyer was me, through my company, Nova Technologies. "Sarah," my father leaned forward, his voice softening in that manipulative way I knew too well. "I'm offering you a chance to be part of something great, a real legacy. And if I refuse, then you'll be cut off completely," he said flatly. "No more trust fund, no shares in the company, no inheritance. It's time to grow up and join the real world." Victoria gasped in fake concern. "Daddy, don't be too harsh. She just needs guidance." I stood up, smoothing my simple black dress. "Before you make that decision, there's something you should see." I pulled out my laptop from my bag. "What? Your little website?" Victoria snickered. I opened the financial documents I'd prepared. "No, sister dear, the full scope of Nova Technologies. You see, we're not just a startup anymore." My father frowned. Nova Technologies? That's the company that just outbid us on the software acquisition. Exactly. I turned the laptop toward them. And here's our current market valuation. The screen showed our company's worth, $47 million, and growing. My mother's coffee cup slipped from her fingers, shattering on the hardwood floor. Coffee splashed across her expensive Persian rug, but for once, she didn't seem to notice. That's impossible, Victoria stammered. I assure you it's very possible, I said quietly. And that software company you wanted? It's just the beginning. Nova Technologies is revolutionizing the hospitality industry, while Bennett Hospitality Group is still using systems from the last decade. My father's face had turned an interesting shade of purple. You're competing against us. Not competing, Dad. Evolving. Which is what you refused to do for the past 10 years. I closed my laptop and stood up. So yes, I'll survive without the trust fund. And no, I won't be taking that entry-level position, but I will make you an offer. Let's work together. Bennett Hospitality Group needs to modernize, and Nova Technologies has the solutions. The room fell into stunned silence. Through the window, I could see snow beginning to fall again, soft and silent, like the calm before a storm. My father gripped the arms of his chair, knuckles white. Get out, he whispered. Robert, my mother started, but he cut her off. G-T-T-I-U-T, he roared. You've betrayed this family. I picked up my bag calmly. I'll have my lawyer send over the partnership proposal. Think about it, Dad. Times are changing. Bennett Hospitality Group needs to change too. As I walked toward the door, Victoria called out, You planned this all along, didn't you? I turned back one last time. No, sister. I just refused to let anyone else define my worth, even family. The door closed behind me with a heavy thud. In my car, I finally let out a shaky breath. My phone buzzed. Marcus again. How did it go? He texted. Phase 1 complete, I replied. Start preparing the formal proposal. And Marcus, make it impossible for them to refuse. As I drove away from my childhood home, I couldn't help but smile. The real game was just beginning. My parents had always taught us to seize power when we saw it. They just never expected me to learn that lesson so well. The next move would be theirs. But I held all the cards now, and I had a feeling the next family meeting would be very different indeed. 3 days after the explosive family meeting, I sat in my downtown Boston office, reviewing the latest reports from our development team. The wall-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the city skyline, though I barely noticed it anymore. My mind was on the storm brewing in the Bennett family. Sarah? My assistant Jessica knocked on the glass door. Your brother's here. I looked up, surprised. Michael Bennett, my younger brother and the family's golden boy, wasn't due back from London for another week. He managed our European hotels and usually stayed far from family drama. Send him in. Michael entered, looking every inch the international executive in his tailored suit. At 30, he was the spitting image of our father in his younger days. Same commanding presence, same steel blue eyes. But unlike Victoria, Michael had always shown a hint of rebellion against our father's iron grip. Quite an office you have here, he said, looking around the modern space. Father's probably having an aneurysm just thinking about it. I gestured to a chair. What brings you back early? You mean besides World War II erupting at home? He sat down with a sigh. Victoria called me immediately after your little reveal. She was hysterical. I'm sure she was. Father's been on a rampage. He's called emergency board meetings, hired investigators to dig into Nova Technologies, and even tried to pressure some of your smaller clients to drop you. I smiled. I expected nothing less. Michael leaned forward. But here's what you might not know. The board isn't backing him. Nova's reputation in the industry is too strong, and your software solutions are exactly what they've been pushing for. Some of them have been secretly using your systems in their private businesses. That was interesting. I'd suspected some board members were more progressive than my father, but this was valuable information. There's more, Michael continued. Victoria's promotion? It's not just about rewarding her loyalty. Father's losing grip on the company. The shareholders are demanding modernization, and he's trying to consolidate power within the family. And you're telling me this because I'm tired of the old ways too. Michael ran a hand through his dark hair. Look, I love the hospitality business, but Father's refusing to see that technology is the future. Half our European properties are struggling because our systems are outdated. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Bennett Hospitality Group just requested an emergency meeting tomorrow morning. I showed Michael the message. Looks like Father's making his move. Be careful, Michael warned. He's desperate, and a desperate Robert Bennett is dangerous. After Michael left, I called an emergency meeting of my own. In our state-of-the-art conference room, I faced my leadership team. Marcus Wong, my brilliant COO, who'd been with me since the beginning. Diana Patel, our Chief Technology Officer. And James Morrison, our Chief Financial Officer. Bennett Hospitality Group will try to either buy us out or destroy us, I explained. Knowing my father, he'll try both simultaneously. Marcus pulled up our latest projections. We're in a strong position. Our new hotel management platform is revolutionary, and we have patents pending. They can't compete with our technology. But they can make things difficult, Diana added. They have relationships with every major hotel chain. One word from Robert Bennett could lock us out of key markets. I stood up and walked to the window, watching the city lights flicker on as dusk approached. Then we need to make our case directly to their board. Show them that working with us is their only viable path forward. Later that night, as I worked late in my office, an unexpected visitor arrived. Maria, our old housekeeper, walked in hesitantly. Miss Sarah, she said, wringing her hands. I had to come warn you. What's wrong, Maria? Your mother? She was in your father's study today. They were talking about old documents, something about your grandfather's original company shares. I felt a chill. My grandfather, William Bennett, had started the company with 3 small hotels. The original incorporation documents contained some unusual clauses about family ownership. Did you hear anything specific? Only that your father said he'd found a way to put you in your place, and Miss Victoria was making calls to the family lawyer. After Maria left, I called our legal team. I need everything you can find on Bennett Hospitality Group's original incorporation documents. Tonight. The next morning, I arrived at Bennett Hospitality Group's headquarters early. The building itself was a testament to old money, all marble and mahogany, with oil paintings of past Bennett patriarchs lining the walls. In the main conference room, my father sat at the head of the table, flanked by Victoria and our family's longtime lawyer, George Hamilton. The board members filled the remaining seats with one conspicuous empty chair, Michael's. Where's Michael? My father demanded. Probably stuck in traffic, Victoria said smoothly, but I caught the flash of worry in her eyes. I took my seat, opened my laptop, and waited. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. "Before we begin," my father announced, "I have something to share." He nodded to George, who started distributing documents. According to the original incorporation documents, George explained, all Bennett family members engaged in competing hospitality businesses must surrender their company's shares and any inherited interests. Victoria smirked. "In other words, dear sister, you have a choice. Sell Nova Technologies to us at our offered price, or lose your entire inheritance." I stayed silent, watching the board members' reactions. Most seemed uncomfortable with this aggressive tactic. Then the conference room door opened. Michael walked in, followed by someone that made my father's face turn pale, our grandfather, William Bennett himself. The 90-year-old man might have been physically frail, but his eyes were sharp as ever. "Robert," he said in his gravelly voice, "what the hell do you think you're doing to my granddaughter?" The room erupted in chaos. Victoria's smirk vanished. My father half rose from his chair. "Dad, you're supposed to be in Florida and miss this power play." Grandfather snorted. "Michael called me 3 days ago. Good thing, too." He turned to George. "Those incorporation documents you're so fond of, I wrote them, and you're interpreting them wrong." I pulled out my own documents, the ones my legal team had discovered overnight. "The clause about competing businesses specifically excludes technology services," I explained. Grandfather was quite forward-thinking for his time. William Bennett smiled. "I always knew you had the real business sense in the family, Sarah. While they were playing hotel managers, you were revolutionizing the entire industry." My father's face had turned an alarming shade of red. "This is ridiculous. The company needs to evolve." One of the board members interrupted. "Mr. Bennett, we've been trying to tell you this for years. Nova Technologies represents exactly the kind of innovation we need." I stood up, commanding the room's attention. "I have a new proposal. Nova Technologies doesn't want to compete with Bennett Hospitality Group. We want to transform it. A full technological overhaul, bringing your hotels into the modern age. But it has to be a true partnership." The board members leaned forward, interested. Victoria looked like she'd swallowed something sour. And my father finally looked uncertain. Grandfather hobbled to the head of the table. "I move for an immediate board vote on this partnership proposal." As hands began to raise around the table, I caught Michael's eye. He gave me a subtle nod. The game wasn't over yet, but the pieces were finally moving in the right direction. The question was, would my father accept this new reality, or would he fight to the bitter end to maintain control? The next few hours would determine not just the company's future, but our families as well. The board vote was unanimous in favor of the partnership. Everyone except my father and Victoria. As the members filed out of the conference room, Grandfather placed a weathered hand on my father's shoulder. "Robert, a word in private." It wasn't a request. Victoria tried to follow them into the adjacent office, but Grandfather's sharp look stopped her. "Just your father." Left in the conference room with Victoria and Michael, I began packing up my laptop. The silence was heavy with unspoken words. "This was your plan all along, wasn't it?" Victoria finally spoke, her voice trembling with anger. "Get Michael on your side. Bring Grandfather in. Humiliate Dad in front of the board." "No, Victoria," Michael interrupted. "This happened because you and Dad refused to see what was right in front of you. The world is changing. Sarah saw it first." "Oh, please." Victoria stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. She abandoned the family business. She went off to play with computers while I worked my way up. Did everything right. Did everything right? I couldn't hold back anymore. You did everything Dent told you to do. There's a difference. In the adjacent office, we could hear raised voices. Our father rarely argued with grandfather, but today was different. They're probably rewriting my promotion, Victoria said bitterly. I shook my head. This isn't about your promotion. It's about saving the company you claim to love so much. Before Victoria could respond, the office door opened. Grandfather emerged first, looking tired, but satisfied. Our father followed, his face unreadable. Sarah, he said quietly. Another word. Inside the office, I sat across from my father, reminded of countless childhood lectures in his study. But something was different now. The power dynamic had shifted. Your grandfather reminded me of something, he began, staring out the window. When I took over the company from him, I was convinced I knew better. New properties, aggressive expansion. He fought me on every decision. And you proved him wrong, I said. The company grew. Yes, he turned to face me. But now I'm doing exactly what he did, refusing to see that the next generation might know better. Coming from my father, this was as close to an apology as I'd ever heard. Show me, he said suddenly. Show you what? Your company. How it works. What makes it worth $47 million? An hour later, we were walking through Nova Technologies' offices. My father looked out of place among the open floor plan, casual dress code, and collaborative spaces, but he was paying attention. In our main development room, Diana was demonstrating our latest AI-driven booking system. Traditional hotels lose 23% of potential bookings due to system inefficiencies, she explained. Our platform reduces that to less than 3%. My father's eyes widened at the projection screens showing real-time data from our test properties. And this works across all hotel management systems. That's the beauty of it. Marcus joined in. It's completely adaptable. We could have Bennett properties integrated within months. Later in my office, my father sat heavily in a visitor's chair. I never knew. Never bothered to understand what you were building. You never asked, I said simply. He nodded slowly. The board is right. We need this. But Sarah, I need to know. Can you work with Victoria? With me? Really work together? That depends. Can you accept that I'm not just your daughter anymore? I'm a business partner, an equal. The question hung in the air between us. Decades of family dynamics, expectations, and control issues distilled into one moment. Finally, he extended his hand. Partners. 3 months later, the integration of Nova Technologies and Bennett Hospitality Group was proceeding better than expected. My father, to everyone's surprise, had thrown himself into learning the technology. Victoria, after some initial resistance, had found her niche in marketing our integrated solutions to other luxury hotel chains. But the real test came at the next family dinner, the first since that fateful meeting where they tried to fix my life. The same dining room, the same family members, but everything was different. My mother had replaced the coffee-stained Persian rug. More significantly, she'd insisted on a more casual family dinner instead of the usual formal affair. Sarah, she said, passing the salad, tell us about the new project in Singapore. Victoria mentioned something about AI-driven customer experience. Victoria actually smiled. It's amazing, Mom. The test results show a 40% increase in customer satisfaction. The Asian market is ready for expansion, Michael added. European properties are already asking when they can implement the full system. My father sat quietly at the head of the table, listening to his children discuss the future of his company. Our company now. I have an announcement, he said suddenly. Everyone fell silent. I'm stepping down as CEO. Forks clattered. My mother gasped. Robert. Not retiring, he clarified, taking the role of chairman. But the company needs new leadership for this new era. He looked directly at me. Sarah, the board and I want you as CEO, with Victoria and Michael as joint COOs. I felt the weight of his words, the trust, the recognition, the subtle admission that he'd been wrong. On one condition, I said. What's that? We moved the company headquarters to a new building, one that represents both our heritage and our future. 6 months later, I stood in front of that new building, a stunning glass and steel structure that incorporated the classic Bennett Lion logo in its modern design. Inside, traditional materials like marble and mahogany blended seamlessly with cutting-edge technology. My father stood beside me, looking up at our creation. You know, I still remember what I said at that family meeting, that you were a disappointment. I remember. I was wrong. You didn't just build a successful company, you saved ours. He smiled slightly. Though I could have done without the dramatic revelation. I laughed. Well, I am a Bennett. We do tend toward the dramatic. Later that evening, I found myself in my old office at Nova Technologies, packing the last few items before moving to the new building. A photo caught my eye. A young girl sitting on her grandfather's lap, playing with a calculator while he worked on hotel ledgers. My phone buzzed with a message from Victoria. Family dinner tonight. Mom's actually cooking. Another message popped up from Michael. Should we warn the fire department? And finally, one from my father. Proud of you, CEO. I placed the photo in my box and looked out at the Boston skyline one last time from this office. The city lights twinkled, reminding me of that snowy morning when I'd driven to my parents' house, nervous about revealing my success. Sometimes, fixing your life means letting others see that it was never broken in the first place. I picked up my box and turned off the lights. It was time for family dinner, and for once, I was looking forward to it. After all, we were partners now, in business and in life. And that was worth more than $47 million any day.